All right. We had the homozygous and heterozygous, right? Now, obviously, the ones that are the same, you put homozygous on, right? But then I wanted you guys to add, and this is heterozygous, right? Add an R or a D to those that are homozygous dominant, HO-D, and then homozygous recessive is a HOR right there, okay? Now they give you the genotypes, homozygous dominant, heterozygous, homozygous recessive. You're supposed to write the phenotypes. So if purple is dominant to white, then obviously the capital P would be purple, and obviously it's not very good to use the letter P. This is a lowercase p. That would stand for white. That may help you. So this would give you a purple flower, this would give you a purple flower, this would give you a white flower. Bobtails are those short nubby tails on cats. They're recessive, so the only way to have a bobtail would be to have two little T's. And these would be your normal tails. I know it doesn't explicitly state that, but you can just assume the opposite would be a normal tail, or not a bobtail. Brown eyes are dominant to blue. This is a really bad example, okay, because eye color is controlled by multiple genes. But let's say one of those genes, there's two alleles, brown and blue. Round is dominant over wrinkled in terms of seed shape. Now this next part is doing the opposite, right? It's giving you the phenotype, right? That's the phenotype, and asking you to kind of work backwards and pick possible genotypes. You guys can choose whatever letter you want. Now with hair, I'm not going to use S for straight and lowercase s for curly, right? I probably want to use H for hair. Does that make sense? If you guys wanted to use S, that's fine, but I don't like to use that. Now, big H, does that give me straight hair? Is that the only genotype? Oops. We have a big H and little h as well. So remember, if you have pointed heads are dominant to round heads, I'm also going to use H. You guys could use, you know what? Let's use P. It doesn't really matter. But if you guys want to use capital P pointed, lowercase p, round, right? So then to be pointed, you can be homozygous dominant or heterozygous. Round be like that. Long tails, big L, big L, big L, little L, little L, little L. Long hair, I'll just use H for hair. You get the picture, right? So we did this cross, right? When you have a dominant that's purebred, recessive purebred, all of them will be heterozygous. So this genotype is round. What percentage? 100%. When you do like this, however, you'll notice it doesn't matter which side you put the parents on. Round, wrinkled. Round, wrinkled. So 50% of those will be wrinkled. 50% of those will be round. So 2 out of 4, 50%. If you do it where it's homozygous dominant, however, with heterozygous, those are capital, heterozygous. Homozygous dominant, round. Homozygous dominant, round. Heterozygous, also round. And heterozygous, also round. Even though you have two different genotypes, that's one genotype, that's another genotype, all of your phenotypes, right, are going to be round, 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 round. And remember, the question is asking you how many are round, not how many are one genotype or the next. 100% or 4 out of the 4 will be round. When you do any sort of heterozygote cross with another heterozygote, you're going to kind of start to realize these patterns. And you're like, yeah, I know what the ratio of that is. That's going to give me this 3-to-1 ratio. whereas all of these are going to be round, right? And only this last one will be recessive. Right, that guy's by himself. So it's asking you for round, though. So it's asking you for these three right here. So that's 3 out of the 4, or 75% round. So we did this one already. Okay, it's kind of the same thing as before. If you cross purebred tall with a purebred short, you're going to get 100% tall. If you cross two heterozygotes, it's not asking you how many will be tall, it's asking you short. So it's actually asking you for this one now. Okay. Now it's asking you a little bit different. It's not asking you for the phenotype. It wants you to know what is the percentage of a genotype. So if the parents were homozygous dominant and heterozygous, just do that cross real quick. Homozygous dominant, homozygous dominant, heterozygous, heterozygous. They're all round. It wants you to know how many are going to be homozygous. How many is that? 2 out of the 4, or 50%. Okay? A homozygous round seed is crossed with a homozygous wrinkled seed. Now, we have to take the word problem and convert it into letters. Homozygous. So it's going to be the same letter. Round. Well, we know round is the dominant one, right? And wrinkled is the recessive. So I've picked my letters already from previous problems. Homozygous round is going to be big R, big R. Homozygous wrinkled, there's only one way to be wrinkled, and that's little r, little r. Then it's asking you what would of the offspring will be homozygous. Well, do that cross. You have to do the cross. Big R with a little r, little r. And you'll notice none of them are homozygous. They are all what? That is heterozygous. Because each letter is different. Each allele is different. Okay, so in pea plants, purple dominant to white. Guys, put the trait off to the side, right? This is purple. I'm using F's because I don't like using P's. Is dominant to white. I'm going to be using the letter F. You guys can use whatever you use. If two white flowered are crossed, what percentage of their offspring will be white? And you're probably thinking, wow, they just told me the phenotype. They didn't tell me the letters. What's the only way to have white flowers? The only way is to be homozygous recessive. So they're asking you ultimately to do that cross. I really don't even have to do that cross. I know that if they're all little f's, then all the offspring must be 100% what? White. 100%. All of those genotypes will be white. A white flowered, okay, so we already have established that the only way to be the recessive trait is to have homozygous recessive genotype, is crossed for heterozygous. Well, there's only one way to be heterozygous. Just do that cross. It doesn't matter which one you put on the top and which one you put on the side. That is going to be what? Purple or white? Purple or white, class? Big F, little f. Luca. There you go. Because it has one of the dominant traits. Little f, that's going to be white flowers. Big F, little f, that's going to be purple flowers. And it's asking you what percentage of the offspring, that's what's inside of the squares, will have purple. 2 of the 4 will be purple. 50%. 2 plants, both heterozygous, are crossed. What percentage will have purple? This is hopefully starting to see a pattern. Okay. Now remember, if you have to put these keys to the side so you don't forget, we've established that purple is dominant. That's going to be the capital letter. And white is recessive. That is going to be 2 homozygous dominants, heterozygous, heterozygous. All of these are going to be purple, 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 white. What percentage will have purple flowers? 75%. What will have white? 25%. You can see right here, even though that's not the color, that's purple right there. And there's your white right there. In guinea pigs, now we're looking at it, we're no longer talking about flowers. We're talking about a different organism, different trait. The allele for short hair is dominant for obviously long. So the trait, right? The trait that we're looking at, so pick your letters, is hair length, right? Now, what are my two letters that I want to represent? It doesn't matter, right? I can use H. Short is dominant. This is short. This is long, correct? So I don't care if you guys used H, A, B, D, L, doesn't matter. The genotype for heterozygous, for short, it's just one of each. Purebred, short, I've told you the short is dominant, so just make sure they're both capital. And the only way you can have long is they're both lowercase. So we've established, at least I've established, that the capital letter is H for hair. Right? You guys can use whatever letter you want. Show purebred short. So if it's purebred, they're both the same for short. With a long hair. There's only one way to be long haired. Okay? What percentage will have short hair? We'll just do the Punnett square. They'll all be heterozygous, just like Mendel's P generation cross. That's all going to be short, right? 4 out of 4 will be short. That's 100%. Show the cross for two heterozygotes. That's going to be this. Big H, little h, big H, little h. Homozygous dominant, short, 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 and then, oops. That's going to have long. So what percentage will have short? 75%. What has long? 25%. So you have two short hairs. We're mated several times. Uh-oh. Now we have a problem. Two short hairs. This is two short hairs, right? This is two short hairs, right? This is two short hairs. Correct? Aren't those all two short hairs? Crosses? You can have homozygous, homozygous, heterozygous, heterozygous, or homozygous, heterozygous. It doesn't matter. Those three crosses are all short-haired with a short-haired. So which would give you, out of 100 offspring, 25 of them would be long hair? You could do all three Punnett squares to figure out that, 25% would have long hair. Or if you remember this guy right here, right, we've already done enough of these to know that when they're both heterozygous, you're going to get that 3-to-1 ratio. So I don't need to do all three Punnett squares. Hopefully by now you can start to pick up the patterns. And when they're both heterozygous, you're going to have short, 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 and then 25% will be long. Well, if 100 guinea pigs were born and 25 of them were long, that's going to be 25%. So they're asking you what the genotype would be. Well, the genotype would be two heterozygous parents would give you 25% of their offspring to be long.